All right, what's up, Los Angeles and the people, the Rams fans, Rams Nation? Joining me today, Jake Ellenbogen on the LA Football Podcast, LAFB Live. We're going to talk a little Rams football as we wrapped up Week 2 preseason game against the Raiders. But Jake, what's up? First, how you doing, man?
I'm great, Ryan. How are you, my guy?
Doing good. Can't complain.
Love to
now
hear
the Rams
it.
lost, but it's preseason. Like, who really cares? We're going to get into some good stuff, some not so good stuff, but it's just good to have football back. We were talking a little bit pre-air. It's just great to just sit back and be like, thank God there's like football on the screen again. I get to watch the Chargers again later today. So a whole weekend full of football. So I think we're both just excited about that.
I can't stress it enough. I'm so glad football's back. I mean, when you look at, the type of content we're doing, you being the LA Football Network and me being, part of Downtown Rams, you can only do so much until it's like, all right, you got to throw me a bone here. When are we getting football? Because I can't keep talking about, these all-time Rams teams like that. That only goes so long until people find it very stale. So it's great to finally have content to talk about.
We do this off-season segment that I call Jersey Beer Run, where we go jersey number 1 to 99, and we take all 4 teams in LA, but whoever wears that jersey number, we look at who most we'd want to have a beer with. So that's like what we do on our off season, but you can only do that so many episodes where you're like, all right, I need something else to talk about.
Oh, I feel that. I mean, even like when you start talking about, you start talking to all the not fans, so to speak, but, content creators that cover certain teams. You can only do that for so long before that gets a little stale too. It's always fun getting guests on, but when you're constantly, it gets kind of watered down a little bit. So, it is nice to have some original content. And I mean, we're going to have plenty to talk about because, man, Bryce Perkins showed out. We got Chris Garrett, going off. I mean, some good stuff. And I'm excited to, dive into it.
Yeah. Oh man. We'll get to the, I like to end with the good. So let's start with the bad. Let's start with some negatives here. And I'm going to start with a guy that I think both of us, I'm trying to look back at stuff we've written and whatnot, but both of us thought his progression was going well from being drafted in the 3rd round. You probably know where I'm going with this. Bobby Evans, was slated to be the starting guard now with moving Corbett over to center. Obviously, they made that switch, and I've talked many times. I think they made the switch to Brian Allen because Bobby Evans was struggling so much at guard, and they wanted Corbett there. It wasn't so much as Corbett struggling at center. And again, last night, not a lot of great stuff to say, so I'll let you comment on that. But also, just a follow-up question, is he in jeopardy to be cut, or do you think he's still safe on this roster as they think he's going to be a guy long-term?
I don't think they think he's going to be a guy long-term. I think he's fallen out of favor with the coaching staff. You can tell because he's playing late into the 4th quarter of these games, starting the game. For whatever reason, they're not using him at right tackle. So that to me is where I felt Bobby Evans was being groomed to take over right tackle, to the point where I've even gone out and said, won't be surprised if they trade Rob Havenstein this offseason. Well, they didn't.
And not to cut you off, but when he
go ahead.
When he played for Havenstein in 2019, he actually played fairly well. I think that's why we both were like, okay, this is decent.
Well, I got a little tidbit to add to that. So it's funny because, I've constantly heard over and over again, oh, come on, you can't give up on Bobby Evans. He shut down Khalil Mack. Whoa, hold on. Wait a second there. Let's go back a sec, okay?
Yeah.
It's his first ever game. I'm going to give him the credit, right? Because he didn't allow a sack from Khalil Mack. That rhymed. That was not trying to do that. The point I'm about to make here, Sean McVay had Tyler Higbee chip Khalil Mack every single play. He basically told him before the game, I don't know, I didn't hear the conversation, but this is probably how it sounded. You're going to be in charge for number 52, and you're going to be in charge for number 71 to not allow number 52 to hit number 16. Very simple. Just make sure you hit. There should not be a snap where you come off the line of scrimmage and you're not nudging, Khalil Mack. And that is what's going to allow Bobby Evans to get his hands on Khalil Mack. It's going to allow him to neutralize him at the point of attack. And it's ultimately going to allow him to use the leverage advantage, because right off the bat, when you're going full speed ahead and you get hit in the shoulder or what have you, you aren't going to have the same momentum as you would have had just not getting hit at all. And so that is why that chip works. But the problem is so many people saw that, don't understand the whole idea of like what chipping is. And, if you don't know, just watch Chris Garrett last night and how he ripped through Patrick Omame, and then they started trying to chip him and he ripped through that. The best players make plays despite the chip, and Bobby Evans, while he played well in the role that he was given, he still didn't play well enough as far as to say he's been a good right tackle. So I mean, the last time we saw Bobby Evans, besides, last 2 games in the regular season, actually it was the postseason, he was getting baptized by Zadarius Smith, who is one of the better pass rushers in football. But when you look at that, Jared Goff actually put together a pretty good football game in the frozen tundra on the road, 9 fingers available without Cooper Kupp. It was a valiant effort by Jared Goff. I don't think we talk about that enough, especially the fact that Bobby Evans had these guys in his lap the whole game. And at the end, it just became too much. The wheels fell off. So to look at Bobby Evans and his struggles last year, to look at a few bright moments in his career so far, to me, it's not enough. And to see him last night, and I mean, last week he did the same thing too, but last night when the game's on the line and they were playing to win, let's call it like it is. I know it's a preseason game, but they were playing to win. And to see last night when Bryce Perkins on a 4th down gets engulfed and has to get out of harm's way and make a play with his legs that he should have had to make, because as great as it was, let's call it like it is, Bobby Evans is an NFL guard, NFL tackle. He shouldn't be getting bodied by 3rd-string defensive linemen. You know, that upset me, but on top of it, it basically solidified my approach. I didn't like the pick when it happened. I did my usual, I didn't like the pick, but I'll see what the Rams see in him. Bobby Evans ain't it, and it's better to cut ties with him now than let a guy like Bryce Perkins go to try to save him and add him to the roster, to allow a guy like Juju Hughes go, or to allow, another really talented safety who balled out in J.R. Reed go. Because basically that's what you're deciding. You're not deciding if Bobby Evans makes it over another offensive lineman. You're deciding if Bobby Evans is going to make it and he's worth developing, and you're worth rolling the dice on guys like Juju Hughes, J.R. Reed, and Bryce Perkins.
No, I agree, especially after seeing him in these 2 preseason games and what we've seen before. Okay, let's say they do, after the 3rd game, decide to cut ties with him. He doesn't improve enough over a week. I mean, I don't think you're going to improve it a lot over a week anyway.
Yeah.
So let's say he doesn't and they decide to move on. Do you feel comfortable with who they have left then? Tremaine Ankrum, I know, was playing right tackle pretty much all of the game yesterday. Did get a little banged up, but I heard he's okay. But I mean, he can play that versatility. Can Coleman Shelton, do you think, maybe slide over to guard? Do you feel good about the depth there if they let him go? Or do you think they need to go out and add someone?
I think they definitely should consider adding somebody. And I mean, why not, right? You still have the 53-man rosters in order. So there's always going to be talent that comes available that has to get cut. And so I think the Rams are definitely going to check that market. They're going to check waivers. So they're going to see what they can do. Look, this is a team that hasn't been afraid to go to the waiver route before. They've added guys like Blake Countess because of it. They've added guys like Marquis Christian. It's definitely happened before. Darius Williams is another guy. So the waiver route exists for the Rams and it has worked for the Rams. Furthermore, as of recent, Matt Orzech, the long snapper for the Titans, who was cut, the Rams claimed him, and he is right now the favorite, supposedly, to win the long snapper job. So, to me, it goes to show you this team is willing to go and get players no matter where they come from. They did the same thing last year with Raymond Calais, who was surprisingly cut by Tampa Bay, 7th-round pick. They caught him, and then the Rams scooped him, and they never saw him again. So, I would rather them cut ties now with Bobby Evans, not look at their 3rd-round, selection and be like, oh, that's such a waste. Just cut ties now, and don't waste Bryce Perkins, don't waste Juju Hughes, and don't waste J.R. Reed, because I think you have 3 solid pieces there. I think all 3 should probably make the roster. It's going to be hard to fit them, but it's going to be nearly impossible to fit them if you try to fit them with Bobby Evans. To me, Evans being, a weak link, I can deal with. Evans being a weak link during the preseason, that's to me
in the fourth quarter.
It's just not going to get any better. To me, we saw the complete downfall of Bobby Evans overnight. I mean, this guy, like we were talking about, was a starter, in mini camp, and now all of a sudden he's not starting. You've said that's probably why Brian Allen is. I would agree. But furthermore, I think Brian Allen has kind of showed them that, he's different. He last year, he bulked up. Last year, he was basically redshirted the whole year, had an injury and had COVID. So, they decided to redshirt him, bring him in next year, have him compete. I didn't think he'd make the roster, but here he is starting. So congrats to him.
Yeah.
Coleman Shelton, I'm not the biggest fan of. He doesn't really jump off the page for me. I actually like Jordan Meredith.
Jordan Meredith's looking good.
He looked good, and I don't really think I saw a ton of him last night. It seemed like they really wanted to give Coleman Shelton a run. But I like Meredith more than Shelton. And then, Alaric Jackson's interesting to me. I think you see some flashes in pass protection. I don't think he's great in the run game. And I think that's one reason why they will probably end up keeping Bobby Evans, because he is solid in the run game, but he is so bad in pass pro that it just doesn't matter. I don't know if you saw, but I just got tagged in a bunch of stuff, because when you say a lot of stuff on Twitter about a player, then all of a sudden everybody of that fan base starts tagging you and stuff about the player. Well, I just saw that Rams PFF dropped that Bobby Evans was the Rams leader in offensive grade last night, which is just
really.
Yeah.
What are they? What scale are they grading on?
I don't understand. I mean, I think what I was told, I don't know the scale. I don't know if they've changed it, but what I was told by somebody, and just going through the process, I quit halfway through because I didn't want to do it anymore. But going through the process, I believe it's a -2 to 2 scale. So each play you get a -2 grade, a -1, a 0, which is kind of like just average, a 1, which is good, and then 2, which is the best that you can get.
Okay.
I don't know how you gave Bobby Evans enough to have a positive grade. I don't think he did enough. There's one play in particular that he made a nice block on that had nothing to do with the rest of the play. He was pulling to the left side and they ran up the middle. I
looked it up. They gave him a 78.3 grade, which is, I don't know how someone like JJ Koski or Bryce Perkins
what I'm saying.
have higher grades than that.
Bryce Perkins literally had to go out of harm's way, make plays off script because of how poorly Bobby Evans played. Yeah. So I just don't even know how you can make that argument. Through 2 touchdowns in preseason. I mean, his interception, I'm just going to tell you right now, his interception was the coaches saying, go let it rip, because Bryce Perkins, with the 0 to 9 yard, depth, his stats in that regard, I think he had like a 64 completion percentage. He shot up to like 74 when he's throwing from 10 to 19 yards, but he was 0 when he was throwing past 20. And when people say this guy's going to challenge Wolford for the backup job, I'm not laughing at you. But what I will say is that before you say that, realize that Wolford can throw the deep ball. And while I've said many times Bryce Perkins did that in college, Bryce Perkins needs to do it in the NFL. And here's the thing. He's gotten better and he's gotten comfortable. He's got the moxie. He's got the poise in the pocket. He's got the willingness to succeed. He's going to go outside the pocket. He's going to extend the play. At the end of the day, Bryce Perkins needs to get better with the 20-plus yard throws, because this is not going to be a dink and dunk offense. And if he wants to be the backup, he needs to be able to do the things that Wolford does. He can't do that right now. So I think he's graduated from the short and intermediate game. And we saw that, having the confidence to throw lasers in there to JJ Koski, that one throw on 3rd down where he's like blanketed.
Across
and he has to, and he has to throw it perfectly. Like that, to me, that's the type of throw where he's graduated from the short and intermediate game. And if you wanted to run that really short and intermediate heavy offense, Perkins might be able to do it for you, man, with
Yeah.
that mobility. But this idea that, the deep ball doesn't matter, it does. And that's why I think that throw to Tutu was them basically just kind of nudging him like, hey, we want to see what you can do throwing the deep ball. So I don't know if they necessarily going to give him an X or anything like that. I don't know if they give him bad marks on that throw.
Mm-hmm.
It's triple coverage, but it was one of those shot plays where you'll throw one of those every now and then. And it was more like just a long punt where they were.
Yeah.
So,
well, and if we want to be really critical, because I think he played well, but if we want to be really critical on that play, Tutu had him beat. I know it was triple coverage, but Tutu was behind him. He had him beat.
Exactly.
Just a little underthrown, and that's why it looks like a triple coverage play.
Yeah, exactly. And I will say this, I have a thread out there on Twitter, kind of breaking down as much as you can in a thread, of course, breaking down, his college tape, not Tutu. Well, I think Tutu as well, but Bryce Perkins when he came out. And Bryce Perkins has some monstrous deep ball throws that are like breadbasket perfectly thrown. It's the inconsistency with that. And you can see that. Like there are times where the velocity is like, what? He put a dart on that. Yeah. And then there's other times where he kind of lofts it. That is exactly why you want to have a developmental quarterback. Because you see the tools, you see the traits. This is why you're going to have to keep him on the 53. Because if you don't, he's going to end up in Seattle as their backup. You watch Alex Magoo the other night, two interceptions, and Geno Smith is your backup. If Russell Wilson gets hurt, you are screwed. Yeah. Let me tell you, it's not going to go well.
Or Dallas, like a Dallas, if Dak doesn't play, which he might.
Oh, God. Cooper, no, who was it? DiNucci threw 3 picks yesterday.
DiNucci, yep. And they got DiNucci and Cooper Rush. I don't know why they haven't signed anyone yet already. They must be waiting for these cuts, I think.
I have no idea. Well, that's another thing. So it kind of goes back to what we were saying. I think there's going to be a lot of cuts. There's going to be a lot of players that are very intriguing. And I think the Rams are going to have their pick of the litter as far as offensive linemen. I mean, they're not going to be super high in the waiver order. Which I think is ridiculous. I think they really need to kind of fix the waiver, in my opinion, because I'm pretty sure the waiver order is going to go in draft order, but those guys have already had the pick of the litter throughout the off season. I mean, how many times did the Rams put in a claim and the Jaguars got the guy, or, the Jets got him? It's like, come on now. So, we'll see, but I definitely think there are some offensive linemen there that are not starting caliber guys, but good depth pieces that are going to get cut. And, happens every year. The Rams have added guys like that in the past. And just look at who they have right now. The way they got Blythe, the way they got Corbett. Blythe is no longer with the Rams, obviously, but the way they got him, the way they got Corbett. Whitworth was a free agency signing. So when you really look at it of who they've gotten, who's starting, week 1, Edwards, a 5th round pick. In the same draft, you drafted a 3rd round tackle who you might cut. And then you have a 4th round pick. And then you have a 2nd round pick. But aside from that, you have a trade, a late 5th round pick trade, and then you have Whitworth signing. Yeah. So, Ankram's a 7th rounder. Noteboom's a 3rd rounder from 2018. You have to kind of figure out what you're going to do there. Noteboom not playing speaks volumes to me. It tells me that he might really, truly have the inside track to be the left tackle after Whitworth.
I think so.
And I don't think they want to waste another second with him at guard. And I think that's what they're saying. And on top of that, when you really think about it, Ryan, it makes a lot of sense because, these are live bullets. These are live reps. This is what you need. How does that help putting Noteboom in there to play a position that he's not expected to play for his career? He was not, brought in to do it. How does it help him? And more so, how does it help a 5th round pick in David Edwards, who you're developing at guard? Because someone's going to have to lose their playing time. And it stinks because Noteboom, I do think, is actually better than Edwards at guard because I just think he has more tools to him. But I also think Edwards is a good guard and they want to develop him. So it would just be taking away meaningful reps for a guy that actually plays that spot to just give reps to a guy that doesn't. So
makes no sense. Yeah, it makes no sense. And I agree with you. It just shows what they feel about him. And you know, when we had Whitworth on, he talked so highly of Noteboom and felt confident that he could take over for him when need be, or he even said and this was more jokingly, but it had some resonance to it. He even said, like, if, you know, Carberry and McVay feel like Noteboom's best at left guard, I'm happy to slide inside or happy to play center or whatever. Which just, you know, he was joking, but it takes it as,
that'd be crazy.
Yeah, right. I know.
I kind of want to see it. Damn it.
I know. Why not? That'd be the tallest center in the game.
I know. It's crazy.
But yeah, and I think too, what fans need to remember is this year with cuts is going to be very different because we have a preseason, whereas last year there was not. So when cuts happened, no one really knew.
There was no tape.
Had no film on them. There was no tape. So it's like a lot of people just stayed in house. Whereas this year, it's like, okay, we've seen this guy. We have a whole scouting department looking at these guys playing. Who knows? Maybe Austin Blythe will get cut from the Chiefs as he loses his job to Creed Humphrey, and we see him back in LA. But that brings me to my next segment or next point, I guess, which it kind of goes along with that. And it's the running backs who, you know, obviously we know about Cam Akers. Many people thought, you know, are they going to trade for someone? Are they going to bring someone in? I've said all along, if they bring someone in, they're going to wait for these cuts because there's going to be some good tailbacks available. Well, now you lose Raymond Calais last night, who I know was more about the special teams, less about the running back room, but still a depth guy. You know, now we're down to 2 backs or 3 backs with Darrell Henderson. So they're going to have to add somebody. And there's some guys that I have in mind that might get cut. I know people still think, are they going to trade for someone? Why would you trade when that guy might be cut in a week? So are there any guys that you think they'll add? Do you think they feel good with just the 3? How do you feel about the running back spot?
Well, it's really intriguing, Ryan, because before I came on here, I would have told you they're fine with the 3. But then, you know, and you probably know where I'm going with this because I just saw the tweet come out with Tom Pelissero. And, you know, Pelissero, very important wording here, okay? Because he's in with the Rams. He has the contacts. He's in. So what he's saying here is he will have surgery Monday for a mid-foot fracture and is facing a 4 to 6 month recovery. So he might be actually shut down for the season. We might not see Raymond Calais. That is a huge bummer, but it honestly might be better for him the long term. Anyway, because if he's not going to have a significant role or anything, maybe, you know, he adds on to next year, whatever. So it's a terrible break for Calais, who was going to make the team. So he's already come out and said he knows, source told him he was going to make the team. I expected that. I expected him to be the kick returner. That's a bummer. And was emerging as a weapon on offense and in return game. We knew the return game, but that last part, emerging as a weapon on offense. Now, I don't think that's him just throwing it out there to make it a cooler tweet. I think that's a contact telling him that. And when you see the agility and the elusiveness, and obviously he can make plays in the backfield as a pass catcher, it's not hard to see what they mean by that. It's not hard to see why they would say that. So I'll say this. If Raymond Calais was seriously going to be a weapon for them in the offense, I'm not hating. I like him. What I am saying is that don't be surprised. Like you're saying, that to me would sell that they're probably going to go out and get somebody. Or they're going to give Otis Anderson more run. But seeing Xavier Jones late in the 4th, Otis Anderson's probably... I mean, he did get the 2 kick returns, but I wasn't overly impressed with him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know it's interesting. And I saw that tweet too. And, you know, the days I was at camp, I didn't see it. I didn't see Raymond Calais ever with the ones running any things, but I agree. I don't think Pelissero would just like throw that in there just for the hell of it. I mean, I think there's something. So it is interesting. And, you know, some guys that, you know, we don't know if they're going to be cut, but some players to maybe look for, you know,
I would say Sony Michel.
Sony Michel is, I know a lot of talks about. Royce Freeman with the Broncos potentially, or Mike Boone. I don't know if they'll keep 4. Even right here in LA with the Chargers have 4 really good backs. I don't know if they're going to keep 4. So it might be one of those guys that gets on the waivers. So definitely some players to look for these Rams to add. But I'll say again, it's not going to be Todd Gurley. That's not going to happen. I know he was at a Dodger game last night here in LA. He's allowed to have friends out here. He lived here for 5 years or whatever.
Yeah.
And then it's not going to be a trade because they're not going to trade assets when they can just wait a week and there's going to be a slew of players available.
Please don't be a trade. I've seen Kareem Hunt for a 3rd. I'm like, guys, the Browns would never do that.
Yeah.
Like the Browns would never do that. Their offense, they're limited by Baker Mayfield. sorry, Browns fans, you're limited by Baker Mayfield. He's your weakest link. It doesn't mean that he's a horrible quarterback. It just means your team is that good to the point where he is not even close to your best player. They're not trading what makes them unique.
Mm-hmm.
They are the most unique offense in the league because nobody can match what they have. That 1-2 punch with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. We won't get into why they even have Kareem Hunt. Because, I mean, he was with the Chiefs.
Yep.
But the point is they have him now. And they also have Nick Chubb. And because they got him when they did and how they got him, Kareem Hunt, they got on a really cheap deal to make this work.
Yeah.
So that's invaluable. You can give Hunt 200 touches. You can give Chubb 300 touches. Chubb gets hurt. Now you still have a top 12 running back. They're not trading him.
Yeah. Not happening.
It's just not, Sony Michel is an intriguing one. I'm not saying they will, but I'm not saying that, Ramondre Stevenson hasn't done enough to knock him off the roster either, because I feel like he kind of has.
Yeah.
Very
different backs, but yeah.
Yeah, very different, but yeah, and Michel's an interesting one. I was not a huge fan of him coming out. I like Chubb more.
Yeah, me too.
I kind of felt like people just kind of threw Chubb to the wayside after he tore his ACL, but didn't realize still how good of a tape he was putting out even after the ACL, which was just odd.
Yeah.
Sony Michel was like the new gift that you get from, somebody, right? Just like, oh, well, this is cool. This is new. But like, how much better was it than the old thing that you had, And I think Michel's gone through some injuries himself to the point where, we'll see if he still has anything left in the tank. I think he still does. I've seen it in preseason. I just think he's kind of fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
But I also don't think the Patriots are just going to let him go for nothing. So I could definitely see them trading Michel. But we'll see. I mean, I just think the Pelissero, his thought process on that, and the fact that he put that out in his tweet really changed my opinion on that. Because if they truly valued Raymond Calais as an offensive weapon, I do think that there'll be a running back that we don't see actively in horns, wearing horns come September.
Yeah, I agree with you. So look for that in probably about a week from now. So we'll see what that goes. Last thing with the offense, we'll move to defense before we wrap up. But we gotta talk about the receivers, because I mean we talked. I think last time we were on the show was right before training camp started, and we talked about how deep this room was, and basically the 5 spots are locked already. So they basically have 1, maybe 2 positions open if they decide to keep 7, which maybe they will now with Raymond Calais out, because maybe they'll have a receiver as the return specialist.
Yeah.
I thought JJ Koski had a good game. Landon Akers had a good game. I know Tristan Jackson, who's been the kind of the camp darling, did not play last night because he's a little banged up, but he's a guy that I know that they're very high on. Who do you think makes this roster in the 6th spot or the 7th spot, or do they keep more? They're not keeping more than 7, but do you think they keep 7, or do you think they stick with 6? And who do you like?
I'd love them to keep 7. It just doesn't make any sense. They're so depth filled, and the guys that they have in their first 5, you're talking about Tutu Atwell being your 5th receiver. You're pretty good there. I think they're going to keep Tristan Jackson, who I think is very similar to Josh Reynolds in build, but also what he, adds to that team. I understand the injury is unfortunate, but I just have kind of, rolled with the idea. I like Koski. I like what he can do. I love the way he finds the soft spot in the zone, just kind of stays there in the middle of the field, not afraid to take a hit. And then, of course, Landon Akers, who's absolutely not afraid to take a hit. Dude runs like he's Cam Akers when he has the football. I mean, you see him just, fighting for every yard. You got to love that. I was hoping he'd get some run with the kick return game, because I think that could keep him that could keep him in the running, so to speak. The way I see it, Landon Akers is a guy they can keep, because they can add him to the practice squad. There's no connection to the Seahawks, with Waldron and Andy Dickerson coaching these guys last year. There's no connection. So Landon Akers, you don't have to worry about that. I think he'll be easy to be brought back on the practice squad. Koski, however, is different. And with the Seahawks and everything going on, they had, really good feeling about the FSU, wide receiver that is in all sorts of trouble with the law. I forget his name. Tamorion Terry. That's a guy that they actually thought was going to contribute this year. And when you look at Seattle, obviously they had Dwayne Eskridge, but I wouldn't be surprised if, Waldron, who was the passing game coordinator who worked with Koski, obviously last year, they decide to claim Koski off of waivers. Just like, their first claim would be Perkins if he doesn't make the roster. But Koski, to me, the Rams could lose because I think he has done enough where, you could definitely see that he's a second-year guy. And like I said, they've already coached him. I think they're going to go with Tristan Jackson, though. He was on the 53-man roster last year. There's, comfortability there. Like I say, he's very similar to Josh Reynolds, that type of body that they really wanted. And Eric Yarber does a great job. So I also think the Rams might just be like, well, we kind of just trust Eric Yarber to kind of do his thing no matter who's out here. So if we lose Koski, we lose Koski. But, Tristan Jackson, somebody who was showing, at Syracuse, he was kind of a late bloomer, right? Originally started with Michigan State, and he transferred after not really getting a ton of playing time. Transferred to Syracuse, showed that deep play, the big play ability over the top. So I wouldn't be surprised if they end up hanging on to him and he ends up actually playing more than, say, Tutu Atwell, because I think he's more, ready to contribute than Atwell. He's already been on a 53-man roster, but we'll see. The Skoranek injury opened up everything. The Tristan Jackson injury might have opened up something. That's the thing. Skoranek injury, we know opened up something.
Yeah.
The Tristan Jackson injury, we might think, and if Tristan Jackson doesn't play next week, we'll see.
No bets are off. Yeah.
I think I can say with pure confidence, Jeremiah Haydel will not make this roster. I can't say with pure confidence that, Landon Akers and, JJ Koski won't.
Yeah, I just love Koski's game. Such a cerebral player. Just looks smart there, sure-handed, good route runner. Not going to blow you off with the measurables, but here's Cooper Kupp. That's what makes Kupp so good, is the cerebral presence he has. So,
dude came from Cal Poly. Come on.
Gotta
love that, man. Gotta love the small school guys getting run with the Rams.
I know.
Especially, the guy from Concordia, St. Paul.
Yeah, which we're going to get to. So let's move over to the defense. Nice segue.
It's like that direction.
It's like you've done a podcast before or a live show before.
Yeah, one of those things.
First, I want to ask this before we get to Concordia, St. Paul. Were you surprised that Micah Kaiser and Traven Howard dressed for this game? Or does that, so Aqib Talib, before the game in the broadcast, I'm sure you watched this, and I thought it was interesting. He said, and he played for the Rams, has some ties there. I don't know how much of this was sourced or how much of this was just his opinion. But he said he thinks that Ernest Jones played great last week. By Reeder and Kenny Young not suiting, he says those are your starters. Ernest Jones is your 3. And by Micah Kaiser and Traven Young playing last night, he thinks that means they're battling for the 4th spot. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I see where he's getting at. I see the point. And like I said, he did play for the Rams. He does have maybe some ties there. But what did you think? What did you surmise from the fact that both those guys played in a preseason game?
Yeah, I think they're I think Jordan kind of alluded to the idea that they're kind of just playing around juxtaposition, I think is how she put it. With Micah Kaiser, for instance, he didn't get a chance to wear the green dot last year because it was John Johnson, and that was how it was going to be. So they gave him the opportunity, and then they gave Ernest Jones. I think it's a comparison type deal there to see who's more qualified. Troy Reeder, no matter what this fan base wants to say about this guy, he's the best linebacker on the team. He really is. He's done everything. He's gotten better each year. I don't know why we can't root for the guy. UDFA out of Delaware. I understand he was at Penn State, transferred to Delaware to be with his brother, to go to the school that his father graduated from. He's only gotten better each year, and this is the embodiment of next man up in the league. So Reeder has gotten better each year. He's going to be the starter. Kenny Young, I'm surprised, because Kenny Young, I still see, issues with tackling, going back and watching the film last year, open field tackling he's struggled with. I really kind of felt like it was going to be Traven Howard and Ernest Jones, but I'm glad Troy Reeder is going to get an opportunity from what it looks like. However, I would still probably start, either Traven Howard or Ernest Jones. To me, Ernest Jones is playing very well. Had a huge stop near the goal line, on Nathan Peterman. He's had a couple huge plays, and he's shown the most important thing with Ernest Jones is he's shown that he belongs. It's not just like he's a rookie. Like he clearly, there's not a significant drop off between him and Kaiser. And I think that's what I'm getting at here is that if there was a clear drop off, if there was a clear like, oh, rookie mistakes, mental errors, things like that, fine. But you can't tell me to see the difference based on last night because I just don't. I don't see the difference. And that's not a good thing for Kaiser. That's a good thing for Ernest Jones because with Kaiser, who's been in the league now for 3-4 years or what have you, you should see a difference between him and a rookie. With a rookie, seeing a difference between a guy that's been 3 or 4 years, that's a good sign. So, I think it's definitely interesting, that they played Kaiser. I wouldn't read too much into it. Traven Howard, they should have played last week, if I'm being honest with you. Hasn't played in a long time.
Yeah, he just needs to get his feet wet.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Terrell Burgess effect, They were not playing him because he's on the verge of getting cut. I saw that. I was like, come on, stop it.
Yeah, no.
Give me a break.
Yeah.
And also, they're not trading him for Andre Dillard. I saw that too.
Oh, that was Taylor Rapp. Either way, they're not.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which say they're not doing that.
Yeah, I got to say, it drives me crazy how nowadays someone will write an opinion piece and all of a sudden it becomes a rumor, like an NFL rumor. It's like this dude is just writing an opinion piece, like, oh, maybe this would be fun.
Oh, I know. It's not even the dude's fault, It's like the way certain sites that I won't name, they have their you know where I'm going with this.
Yes,
they have their what is it? Their stream.
Mm-hmm.
And so they bring in all sorts of articles on that topic.
Yep.
And what happens is whether they do it on purpose or not, in their server, they take a certain, they take the meta title. And I think sometimes the meta title gets changed, whether it's on purpose or not.
Mm-hmm.
It goes from, hey, I think it'd be a good idea for, them to trade Rapp for Dillard to, well, we're reporting that they're going to,
according to Bleacher Report,
according to Bleacher Report, we are hearing that Taylor Rapp will be traded for Andre Dillard. Like it's, it's like one of those things where you're like, oh, Jesus. And then it's, then a certain site gets a certain reputation for that. And I mean, there's a certain Twitter account. I'm just going to call it out. NFL Rums.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I mean, stop following them. What are you doing?
Please stop following them. Unless you like parodies.
At least stop DMing me about them because my DMs are full with people. Is this real? No.
Yeah.
Read it out loud. And if you start cracking up, it's not real. Yeah. That's the word. That's the word of thumb. Mm-hmm. If you are reading a tweet out loud and you start cracking up and it's not meant to be funny and it's meant to be news, it's not real most of the time. I mean, sometimes there's some funny news articles out there that are actually real. But when you're talking about NFL rooms or rums or whatever, I'm going to need a rum after reading some of the stuff that they
and they put so many out, eventually you're going to get one right. And they basically celebrate that. Like, look, we told you all along. Like, when you put 40 rumors out a day, maybe one is going to hit.
Oh, it kills me. They're like, oh, well, last week, guys, we got, that time where the guy actually met with the Ravens. He didn't sign, but we did say he was going to meet with the Ravens. It's like, okay, cool. I could have run into the guy at the airport, asked him where he was going, be like, yeah, I'm meeting the Baltimore Ravens. All right, breaking news. This guy's meeting the Baltimore Ravens. He doesn't sign. No one cares.
Yep.
It's not news.
Nope.
I mean,
nope.
Oh,
I'm sure they had tweets about Todd Gurley last night being at Dodger Stadium. So
I think they did. And they had, my favorite was Le'Veon Bell was narrowing his choices. Like, Le'Veon Bell just have choices, man. Are you kidding me? No one wants to sign him.
Nope. He burned too many bridges, I think, unfortunately, for his sake.
Idea. They're like, Le'Veon Bell is narrowing down to 5, and they're like, Rams. I'm like, no. You lost me at Rams. The Rams are not bringing in Le'Veon Bell.
No shot.
And then they would bring in Todd Gurley before Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
At least Todd Gurley, they know.
Yeah.
No, stop it.
I agree with you. So,
man.
But yeah, with the linebacker point, I agree. When we talked a month ago, we said both of us were in agreement. I wouldn't be shocked if any of these 5 guys started or any of these 5 guys were cut. That's how I think close it was. How still it is close. Kenny Young, I will say, has had a great camp. He's been the starter literally all of camp. He's been with the ones.
Wow.
So they're confident, I think, that him and Reeder are their starters for now. I think Ernest Jones will take that over at some point. So it's at this point, it seems like it is between, because I don't know if they're not going to keep all 5. I don't think. I don't know if they'll keep 4. They're definitely keeping 3.
Tough for Roseboom, man. That's so
and
tough.
And Roseboom played great too. Had some great plays up there.
I will say Gervais is my guy, and I think Gervais can work at linebacker. But asking him to switch over to linebacker and have about 2 to 3 months to make the full transition and make the rosters too much.
Yeah.
So I think they did that, trying to give him an opportunity to make the team.
Mm-hmm.
They're still looking at him as a safety, but they're also like safety / linebacker, kind of like Barron.
Yep.
So I feel like he has a shot to make the practice squad. Like, I think they want to keep him in the building.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be a guy. He's intriguing based on his athletic profile. He didn't play well last night, but I thought he played good the last week.
Yeah.
So I think this is somebody he's gonna have his up and downs, but if they want to work with him, he'd be the most athletic linebacker in football. It's not really close, according to relative athletic score. So I think it makes sense. And when you have the coaches they do, I mean, Coach Evero is like literally second to none in the secondary. So I'd almost rather have him play safety just because I feel like Evero gets the best out of literally everyone. But I think that's a guy to keep in mind. They'll probably keep Gervais and they'll probably keep Roseboom on the practice squad. But keep in mind, Roseboom did work with Joe Barry, and Joe Barry is now in Green Bay. Yep. And Green Bay's linebackers aren't very good. I wouldn't be surprised if I like connecting these. I don't like to because unfortunately this is what happens when you let a bunch of coaches go.
Yep.
Now you have to worry about if you cut Dante Dion, is Aubrey Pleasant over there in Detroit. But on top of it, the bigger picture, the general manager in Detroit, Brad Holmes, who's seen all of these guys. So nobody's safe. You have to realize that when you cut these guys, it's not like years prior. You're now one of the top teams in the league. So even if you cut a guy, we've seen it. Even if the Rams don't sign Samson Ebukam, like the 49ers are going to give him $8 million a year just based on the fact that he's coming from the Rams.
Yep.
So if they're doing that, if they're throwing money at these guys, just wait until they're going to be basically the veteran minimum to pick up.
Yep. Oh, yeah, exactly. And it makes me sad that this is probably Coach Evero's last year as a Ram because he'll be a D coordinator probably next year as well.
Oh, absolutely. Well, they're going to have to make a tough decision. Do they bring back Aubrey Pleasant to take over when Raheem Morris becomes a head coach? Or
I know, right?
Evero?
I know. Jeez, the things we got to think about every year as this coaching staff changes.
It's not fair.
Yeah. So, all right, well, let's wrap up with this then. We alluded to the secondary. You're doing real good about just moving us along to what we're going to go to next. So secondary.
I try.
As loaded as this team is, J.R. Reed, another pick last night, who I thought's played great. Juju Hughes has looked phenomenal.
I don't understand. Those guys just have absolutely blown up this year.
Yeah. It's crazy seeing the development from last year to this year.
Oh, I know. It's nuts.
And a lot of that is coaching. A lot of that is just these guys putting the work in the offseason. But with how loaded they are at corner and safety, it's going to be really hard to keep those guys, which is why back to the beginning, I think Bobby Evans we might see gone. Like, why keep that guy when you have so much talent in the secondary?
I'd rather keep Kareem Moore.
Kareem Moore's played great too. Yeah. One of our darlings here at LAFB.
Get out of here with that.
Yeah. No shot.
No way.
Can they keep both? Can they keep any? Or are these guys on other teams?
Oh, it's tough. Well, here's the argument I'd make to keep both.
Well, let me ask you this first. So,
okay, go ahead.
Safeties, will they have more than 4? I mean, that's the big question.
Yeah, definitely.
So you think they'll keep 5 safeties at least?
They're keeping at least 5. The question is, are they going to keep both Juju and JR?
Yeah.
They've done such a nice job because I always hear, well, what about Paris Ford? Paris Ford, I told you, is slow, and there's a reason why he wasn't drafted.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the dude had all sorts of weird stuff go on with Pitt. Like, I think he gave up on the team. He quit, whatever. Like, no. Yeah. Like,
Bronte's played good though too.
Who? Oh, Bronte?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Bronte could play safety, he could play corner. That's the key. You have to have the versatility. You have to sell yourself. Why should I keep you on this roster? And that's the thing. That was honestly kind of the disappointment with Dion Lake, who ended up getting hurt, because I thought he actually had a shot because of his versatility. I'm not saying he would have made the roster, but having, being able to play corner and being able to play safety, that's a good sign. Now, the Rams could get kind of cute with this. And here's how. They could kind of make the argument to keep 6 safeties, because they could use Burgess as their nickel. And if they use Burgess as their nickel, they could just say, well, we're keeping 5 safeties, and then they end up letting, a Dante Dion or a Kareem Orr go. But in terms, basically those guys aren't even competing against themselves. It turns out they're actually competing against Juju Hughes and J.R. Reed, not 2 guys I want to be competing against right now. Yeah. My argument for keeping them is this. Jordan Fuller got hurt last year, and actually got hurt multiple times last year. And that's a concern. I love the guy, but in his rookie year, he got hurt twice. Terrell Burgess had a season-ending injury. Taylor Rapp has had a myriad of injuries, and Nick Scott is battling an injury right now.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell me that you're safe with those 4 guys, that at any point, all 4 of them could get hurt in a game? And I don't even think it's that crazy. I feel like I always hold my breath when, Rapp is out there. I mean, I feel like Rapp's going to get hurt every play, so I don't think it's crazy to say, I know. I don't think it's crazy to say that Toothpick should be there. I don't think it's crazy to say that Reed should be there. I mean, at the end of the day, I think both of them will end up making the team. First off, if they have to pick one guy, it's probably going to be J.R. Reed, and here's why. I think the last guy to get the last say is going to be Joe DeCamillis. And Joe DeCamillis, and you've probably seen this before, I've tweeted this out many times, people are tired of it. Joe DeCamillis, despite it wasn't a long time with J.R. Reed, he was the Jaguar special teams coordinator, and J.R. Reed was in camp. He saw him firsthand. He's working with him again. There's familiarity. If there was a tiebreaker, that would probably be the tiebreaker, at least in my mind. Now, I'm not a fan of favoritism, but it's familiarity isn't necessarily favoritism. It's not that you like a guy more, but it could be based on the fact that you're more comfortable with the guy. And when you get to that close, you're deciding between that. That's like the difference between Juju and JR. That's enough. And so I think if you're picking 5, it's going to be JR. If you're picking 6, then they'll both make it. I mean, there's no way. People have been asking me, what about Troy Warner? I'm like, I'm sorry. I like the guy, but I think he's a practice squad guy. And to be honest with you, he's not going to make the practice squad. He's got too big of a name. There's going to be a team that, takes a shot on him because he's the brother of Fred Warner. Yeah. It's going to happen. Paris Ford will probably be on the practice squad. But, I mean, I think that's a definite there. Those 2 guys have shown out that they belong. And Kareem Orr, who I really like in the, at nickel corner, and I think can play on the outside, like Bronte has shown as well. I just don't know if they can keep everybody. So I think Kareem Orr is going to be a guy they try to sneak on the practice squad. And unfortunately, guess who got the chance to see him up close and personal, how good he can play? The Dallas Cowboys. So when the Dallas Cowboys in their joint practice were seeing Kareem Orr constantly making plays, they're taking notes, that guy could be on their team, and that's the good and the bad about, those joint practices. You got to be careful what you show. And, if you were trying to sneak Kareem Orr onto the practice squad, you didn't do a good job of that by showcasing him against Dallas. I can tell you that. So,
yeah, he's been showcasing all camp. So it's been tough. I guess it's a good problem to have, having this much depth, this much
it is a good problem
with these guys. So it's, it's a bummer to lose some, but that they're in good hands with who they keep. So it'll just be a tough decision by the Rams brass of which ones to keep and which positions to keep more at. Like, then we look at like tight end and like, are they only going to keep 3? Are they going to keep 4? Like,
do you think they keep Bryson Hopkins? Cause I do. I just think that he's had one preseason. He's had one preseason, and last night was his best game.
Yeah.
And I think you saw some good things, and people need to keep in mind, I think the Rams know this. Hopkins has been asked to take on an entirely different role than Jacob Harris. We have to stop comparing them. They are
Yeah.
nothing alike.
Nope.
Jacob Harris is essentially playing that flex tight end role that we're going to be seeing Kyle Pitts play in Atlanta. We've been seeing Darren Waller play in, Las Vegas. That is the role Jacob Harris is going to play. That's why he hasn't gotten bigger. They want to keep him at that size. They're using him like the Giants want to use Evan Ingram. They're using him like that flex. But Bryson Hopkins was not he was that guy in college at Purdue. And now they're asking him to put on a different hat and basically be the replacement to Johnny Munt next year. And that's how I've taken it. Seeing him take over as an inline tight end, taking the brunt of the blocking work up front, I just don't think it's really fair, the comparisons people are making compared to him and Jacob Harris. They're just completely different players. And one guy was in that position and it's been taken and put into a completely different role that's not as sexy, so to speak, that doesn't generate the type of, points and yardage that you might see from, say, the role Jacob Harris has. But I think it's all the same. And at the end of the day, Tyler Higbee, if Jacob Harris and Bryson Hopkins were to really take off in their development, I mean, Johnny Munt wouldn't be back next year and Tyler Higbee would be a trade candidate. And they're going to have to make some room, because if they want to bring back Darius Williams, and have the opportunity to sign, because they're probably going to have to try to, sign Noteboom, and other guys. If they want to do all of that, then they're going to have to be creative. And unfortunately, they're going to have to make some tough, some tough decisions. And I mean, I think really what it comes down to, and Jordan has brought this up in articles, is that they want to keep, there's a reason Jacob Harris is the size he's at. They have not asked him to bulk up. They want him to be the flex tight end. There's also a reason why Hopkins is the size he's at, and they do want him to be that inline tight end. If that can work, and it does kind of change the plans, poor Bryson Hopkins, he was telling me at the Senior Bowl, they envisioned him and Tyler Higbee, even when Gerald Everett was there, he said they envisioned him and Tyler as a tandem. I mean, life comes at you quickly. They had an opportunity to go out and get a guy that just, it's a complete mismatch. And so they went out and did that. But, I really do think Hopkins is going to make the roster. I think they'll keep 4 tight ends. I think Blanton will be easy to bring back on the practice squad. Well, I won't even say easy, because now the Rams have a target on their back. Everyone knows they're good players. So
scored a touchdown yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. But, I think they'll want to bring him back. But I do think Bryson Hopkins is going to make this roster. And, if he doesn't, then I don't see them getting him, because I do think a team would easily take a chance on him, if he was available. So that's what I would say in that regard, is Bryson Hopkins plays a completely different position than Jacob Harris. We have to stop comparing him. And at the end of the day, I think Bryson Hopkins has only played 2 preseason games. And because of that, we just can't really, judge too much off of that.
Yeah, no, it's tough. And I go back and forth on Hopkins all the time. And I love the prospect. I love the idea of him. I totally agree with you that they're basically changing him positions like a 180.
Yeah.
And I think they should. I think he does deserve a shot to do it. It's going to be hard when we talk about all these positions that they may need to keep more on. And when you look at Hopkins, who in camp has not even been running with as the 4th tight ends, we're running at the 5 or 6 tight end at open practice in training camps that I've been at. It's just like when you see that makes me think like, okay, well, maybe they think the experience not working, or they're saying like, you know what, earn your keep, basically. Like, just because you're a 4th round pick last year doesn't mean we're just giving you a roster spot, and they want to see how he reacts to it.
Or they're trying to hide him. And honestly, after last night, going out and making that catch the way he did, the 19-yarder where he absolutely put that guy in a blender.
Had a couple.
I'm not going to lie. If that would be very Sean McVay-and. That's not a word, but we'll call it
Make it one,
how it is. That would be very much a Sean McVay move if they were trying to. I mean, let's be real here. Jacob Harris, they were telling Perkins straight up, throw to Jacob Harris. We want to see him in the red zone, get those reps. So people that were complaining about throwing an end zone fade, I don't think Perkins had a shot. I think they basically said, you're throwing it to Harris. This is the job. They're evaluating at all times. That's why they went for it 5 times on 4th down. They wanted to continue to evaluate. So, I mean, Harris, they're also just, it's tough. You don't want to show too much of your hand. I think Harris pretty much showed last night with the weird way that they were playing him, keeping him in, taking him out, all that. It's pretty obvious they don't really know how to use him without tipping their hand. And so they're really walking a fine line there. But
Yeah.
it's clear as day. If you don't have Jacob Harris in your Dynasty Fantasy League and you have Tyler Higbee, you're going to want to pick up Harris. You're going to want to get him in some way possible because that guy's going to be the starter sooner than later.
Oh, yeah. And just even if he's not, he's going to be used in like every red zone situation. So he could
yeah.
be a guy that has 15 catches and 10 touchdowns next year.
I know there were already people like, he's already dropping these. I'm like, it's preseason.
Yeah,
it's
he
preseason.
He needs to haul that in, but hey, let's cut the guy some slack.
Exactly.
Second ever NFL game.
Second ever NFL game. There's a reason they're trying to force feed him in the red zone. He caught a touchdown, which was the most weird touchdown I've ever seen. He like celebrated and the guy swatted the ball. Really odd. Yeah. No, I was not saying Jacob Harris over Higbee. I was saying that down the road, Jacob Harris could assume that role. And I do think Higbee could be a trade candidate if Bryson Hopkins also develops. It's going to take a team effort here. Mm-hmm. And I like Higbee. I have a jersey hanging up over there of his. I really like him. I met the guy. I'm not anti-Higbee. I'm just being real. The Rams are going to have to make a tough decision, whether it's him or Havenstein. They're going to have to free up cap because Darius Williams, I don't think they got Rochelle just to be insurance for Darius Williams. They drafted players that they wanted to draft. Mm-hmm. Like Darius Williams is a very, very good corner. He's probably top 10 right now. You don't just let a guy like that go and then be like, well, we'll get a 3rd round pick. So
from a small school. Yeah.
Oh God. I can't get into the whole, we'll have a 3rd round pick next year. Oh, awesome. That's exactly. And then this year, are they even going to get a 3rd for losing John Johnson? No, they're not.
Yeah. Probably not. Yeah. I don't
know.
They
got overwritten because John Johnson took like a lesser deal to go to the Browns. I can't.
I know. It's
I honestly, I like the compensatory pick idea. I think it's flawed because it just takes that one season where Tom Brady is a free agent, this guy is a free agent, this guy, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm not even going to have a 3rd round pick.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
a weird, one of those weird things they do to try to help it. No one really understands it. So
just like the 53-man roster makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly. With a 10,
I got an idea, Ryan. Let's since jobs are so hard to come by, let's cut jobs and let's not have a minor league system either.
Yeah. Because what good would that do?
Yeah, right.
Would that serve?
Oh my God, it would only help the young quarterback ecosystem actually live. Last night, Nathan Peterman starting the entire game as a Kyle Sloter fan, who he was cut early on in camp. I can't tell you how much hatred I had in my heart.
John Gruden's love for Nathan Peterman, I will never understand.
Well, it's gotten to the point where it's weird.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Why was he starting the entire game? Like the entire game. Peterman at no point has shown you that he can play in this league.
No, never.
But Sloter never got an opportunity in the regular season, but it has a monstrous resume in the preseason.
Yeah,
I'll always back my guy.
Vikings, yeah.
But man, I'll never understand the fact they wouldn't keep him to preseason. And I don't know. Some of those guys should not have been out there, and Peterman shouldn't have been starting a full game. And we saw why. I mean, Perkins in his 2nd ever game just absolutely outclassed Peterman.
Oh, yeah.
And the only reason the Rams lost preseason is because, you had the 10 penalties that were thrown on them.
Oh yeah, we didn't even bring that up. That was definitely a concern because that's discipline and coaching and stuff like that. And it's third and 4th string guys, but still, you hate to see that many.
Yeah,
that many penalties.
And
but I remember last year
some of them were very ticky. I was getting tired of seeing that Novak guy's face on my screen.
Yeah, I do remember. I remember 2 years ago, the Rams were heavily penalized in preseason too, and we talked about it a lot on our show. And then by the regular season, it had cleaned up. So I think it's just when you're playing all the guys who don't play together all the time and interchanging things, you're gonna have some sloppy play.
Yeah, exactly. It's a 2nd preseason game, not a ton, and there was no preseason last year, so a lot of these guys didn't even get a chance to play during the regular season. So it makes sense. It's just, you'd like to see the referees tail back a little bit more. The blocking downfield call on Bryce and Hopkins was a little.
Yeah,
It
very
was like
ticky-tack.
bang bang when Tutu caught the ball and he was already blocking. Because I think the way the wording of the actual rule is you can't initiate contact until he's caught the ball. But he was like, the ball was in his hands and then Hopkins hit him, but he hadn't completed the catch process. So that's what they were going with. So instead, now Hopkins gets a 15-yard penalty for actually just being a willing blocker and trying to see. I don't know if he'll get bad marks, when they go back and watch the film on that play, but that irked me.
I don't think he will.
They called that. No, I don't think so either. I think there were times during that game where like Perkins won't get a bad mark because, while this guy was open, they'll just appreciate the fact he got out of this play unscathed. And there were a lot of those plays where, man, the dude almost died, and he was somehow able to.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, his body was like this, and somehow he's holding himself up by just his fingertips, and then running for a first down. It's crazy, man. He's fun to watch.
Fourth down conversion was great. That fourth down conversion, escaping the pocket, that was fun. So
that's what legends are made of.
Oh yeah, legends in the preseason, baby. So he'll be. That's how Walford became an icon. Is the preseason warrior. So
absolutely, you gotta highlight that last that last comment by Shot by Nolan. That's my guy.
Oh yeah.
That's so funny. NBA bubble refs for the preseason. He kept saying that during the live stream. It was killing me. It's so true.
Great. It's
like, oh, God.
Yeah. And it is preseason for the refs, too. So, I will cut them some slack. They're working out the kinks and new rules and stuff.
Did you see the cameraman in the Steelers game? Big Ben with the pump fake. It's like they had never seen Big Ben play football.
Yeah, right? Like
where'd the ball go?
This guy does
the
this.
end zone.
Yeah. Don't get those guys on a golf stream. That's for sure.
Oh, Lord.
Well, awesome, dude, man. This was fun. Thanks for jumping on with me. What'd I say? 15, 20 minutes? Here we go, an hour, per usual.
I mean, if you have me on, I talk a lot. It's going to happen.
That's good. Hey, it's fine with me. So good content. Always love talking Rams with you. We didn't even talk about the defensive line. Bobby Brown getting in there for a big play.
Oh, that was great. Oh, shout out to Jonah
Bobby
Williams.
Brown.
He's been on a tear.
Looks good. Eric Banks looked good.
I think he's going to make the team. I think Jonah Williams has done enough where he'll be the last guy in that group with Eric Banks and Hoyt and Copeland. Mm-hmm. I know he's not starting, but every time that guy's on the field, he makes a play. Every time.
Every time. Yeah.
Literally every time. And I know every time I say Jonah Williams, people think of the offensive tackle for the Bengals. I'm like, no, not that Jonah Williams. Like, but
different guy.
No, this guy sacks quarterbacks. That guy tries to not allow people to sack quarterbacks. There's a difference.
So, but that unit's stacked too, man. I mean, if Bobby Brown and Ernest Brown develop like Coach Henderson wants them to, and you figure with Aaron Donald and Ashawn Robinson and Sebastian Joseph Day, like this unit is stacked.
And then Chris Garrett really, he was the player of the game. We didn't
talk about Chris Garrett. We got so distracted, didn't even bring him up. I said, like, we'll get to him. Didn't even talk about it. So, okay, very quickly.
Yes.
Chris Garrett, what did he have? 1.5 sacks, a deflected pass that ended up being intercepted.
Two,
yeah. Dude was
3
everywhere.
Quarterback hits, a tackle for a loss.
I've talked many times that I thought I knew his production would eventually transfer over. It would just take time for him to get up to NFL speed. You took an entire year off because, FCS didn't play last year. So I hadn't played. I knew it would take time. I didn't think it would happen by preseason week 2.
I don't think anybody did, no matter what they tell you. I just think it's funny. It's always he didn't play strong enough competition. But then when they do it, there's just crickets. And it's just so great. Watching him. I mean, this is a guy, the entire knock on him is just that he was too dominant, that people are questioning his competition. And then he goes up against 9-year pro Patrick Omameh, who he's not very good. I'm going to be honest with you. Not very good at all. But he's been in the league for 9 freaking years.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, find me a better litmus test, right?
Yeah, he's a
9-year pro. Yeah. And this guy, not only is he bodying Patrick Omameh, no. He made it so John Gruden changed everything They added a tight end. We were talking about chip blocks earlier. They added a tight end to chip him, and he ripped through the chip block. So
Yeah.
he was ripping through two guys. He was getting double teamed by two guys, and at one point, I think they put a receiver on him as well. Ripped through all three. I mean, this guy is not just winning with speed either. He's winning with his long arm. He's converting speed to power. He's got a great bull rush move. And he's got some dip to him where, this guy, if he has to, he didn't really have to bend because Omame can't move. I don't know why they had him at left tackle to begin with. But, the fact of the matter is, Chris Garrett is going to have a role in this defense. People were asking me if he was going to make the team. I always thought it was guaranteed he'd make the team. You don't draft a guy like that and be like, he might not make the team.
The potential's too great.
Exactly. And the reason I loved the pick, I didn't really know much about him when they made the pick. I know, surprising you, right? Because I pretty much know everybody in the draft. But that was like the one pick I didn't know. And I was just, watching the highlights because unfortunately I tried to get all 22 film of his. They never got back to me. I contacted Concordia St. Paul so many times. Never got back to me. Anyway.
Come on.
I know. I want the all 22. Bring it to me.
Yeah.
But I watched the highlights best I could do. I looked at the, what was it? Lance Zierlein's NFL write up on him. And I saw just constant, he's dominating. And the only question is the level of competition. And, he broke every record as far as forced fumbles and sacks and all of that. And I'm thinking, before I even looked at the highlight tape and I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, this guy is going to be one of those guys that we see in D2 that just runs through people or just runs around people and is so much faster and stronger than everyone else. But I'm watching the way he's winning, and I'm like, he's throwing spin moves in there, nice swim move here. He's got a toolbox. He's got an arsenal of pass rushing maneuvers. You can't tell me a guy like that isn't going to translate. I could understand if he was a one-dimensional pass rusher. Those guys exist. Those are situational pass rushers. They can still have a role. But we're talking about a guy that has a potential to start in this league, and you were basically not giving him a chance because you just, I don't know, you were just dismissing his clear and obvious toolbox of moves. And, it's kind of disappointing that people do that. But,
basically means they're
out in the wash.
Basically means they're reading. Basically means you're just reading Wikipedia on his stats and not watching the tape. Because that was what everyone said about Chris Garrett.
It's always level of competition.
Yeah, but you have Carson Wentz drafted number 1 overall. You have Trey Lance drafted number 3 overall.
I said the same thing about Trey Lance. If you're gonna tell me, was level of competition, okay, he played for the Alabama, the FCS. He called all the plays in the line of scrimmage. He wasn't a clapper. He didn't sit in the shotgun and look over, stare down at his. Okay, is that what I'm running? Okay, cool. And what weapons did he have? It's not like he had a Calvin Johnson. It's not like he was Johnny Manziel who could just throw it up to Mike Evans, who's clearly, obviously an impact player in the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, he was playing with North Dakota guys. So while you can say the level of competition sucked for him, it also sucked for what he had to work with. And I think so many times we forget about that. So that also goes with Mr. Garrett here. So we're always so quick to demonize a guy for playing against like lesser competition. Oh, I'm sorry. Who did Garrett line up next to? Was he with Aaron Donald?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
He was taking the double team and triple teams.
Exactly.
Probably Garrett.
Yeah, probably Garrett, because they were like, how are we going to beat that?
Yeah.
I mean, every single play, it seemed like he had a rush. But, he's a streaky guy. That was the vibe I got. When he gets into a rhythm, I mean, I said it during the stream, because I think they were running like no huddle or something. Garrett looked gassed.
Yes, he did.
And then that same play
is when he got the sack.
He forces a fumble. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I thought for sure that he was not going to get anywhere near. He looks absolutely exhausted. And I don't think that was Garrett's fault. I mean, I think, his motor runs too hot and maybe he just ran out of steam. But it's normal. I mean, they were running a hurry up and then he comes out and just barrels into Nathan Peterman. Good for him. I'm very happy for him. He's clearly going to make the roster, and I think he's clearly going to have a role. And, Terrell Lewis is rocking 2 knee braces. I don't feel great about his long-term health. Okoronkwo has had a hard time staying healthy as well. Justin Hollins is really the only one that's shown you some level of consistency as far as availability and what he can do. And, he's really intriguing to me because of how much better he's gotten as in coverage and against the run. He's already, a very athletic pass rusher in general, was the East-West Shrine Game MVP when he was coming out and had a great combine. But now you had Chris Garrett, and you got to see Ernest Brown rushing off the edge. Now, he didn't really impress me at all, but, he's getting an opportunity. I'm excited to see this kind of translate. He's got to get the reps. Not everyone, that's the thing. Not everyone's going to look like Lawler last week, and not everyone's going to look like Garrett. But these guys are proving with vanilla offenses and defenses, this is just football. They're just playing their game, and these guys are proving that they belong.
Yeah, pin your ears back and go. So
exactly,
depth all over this roster. So and Justin Lawler, how many edge guys are going to keep? It's going to be when we get to when is the final cut down? Is it?
It's the 31st, I think.
Yeah, the end of August, right? 31st.
Now, Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time, they have to cut down to 80.
Yeah.
Who are your 5 cuts, do you think? Do you have them?
Oh, man.
Because I would, right off the cuff, I'd say Haydel.
Yeah.
They have to keep Otis Anderson because
with
the injury to
Calais. Yeah.
So I'd say Haydel, and I would say it's tough because the Rams might want to cut a guy, so recency bias doesn't ensue, and they can kind of sneak him onto the practice squad. So you might see a guy that maybe they've seen enough of to know he's not going to be able to make the roster, but at the same time, they've already seen enough of to make the practice squad.
Yeah, and they don't want to showcase him in week 3 against Denver. So
that's tough. I do not want to be the man making those decisions.
You think both punters make it past this round of 5 cuts?
I think they have to. I would say Haydel's gone.
Okay.
He didn't do anything in the return game, and
which is why he was signed on.
Yeah, I feel bad. I definitely was looking forward to him, but it's a business. Devlin Hodges is my guy, but I was all for. I mean, Bryce Perkins is also my guy, but I was all for playing Bryce Perkins the whole game, and it's one of those things, man. Love you, Devlin, but you've had 8 starts for the Steelers. They know what you can do. They've seen what you can do. Perkins just played his 2nd game.
Yep.
So,
good.
I think with tight ends, I mean, did Kyle Markway get cut last week?
I don't recall.
If he didn't play a single down this time. So I think he's gone. And I think they'd have no problem cutting him.
No, I agree. I think one of the safeties we'll see go also just because they have so many.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Ford.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's 3 right there. Haydel, Markway, and actually, I got to look it up right now. Let me look it up real quick. Kyle Markway, just to make sure. Because
I know I'm trying to remember.
They might have cut him. No, he's still there. Okay.
Okay, so then that's it.
Markway didn't play. Haydel and Paris Ford. Gervais might be somebody because, I think they might want to see him play a lot. And I don't think he's a guy that would get claimed.
I don't think so, just because he's that fringe player. So it's their experiment they're doing. I agree.
Yeah. I mean,
which is good for them. He'll make it through.
Banks, I think, will be a borderline guy, so I don't think they would cut him this week. Marquise Copeland could get cut. They might want to bring him back on the practice squad, so that would be 4. And then, man, it's tough to cut any of the corners. It sucks, man. I like Bronte. I like Kareem Moore. I like Bronte more than I expected.
Yeah, me too. He's looked good. Had a big PB yesterday.
Yeah.
He's had some good play. You look at the line, like maybe Alaric Jackson, because if they cut him now, they can get him on the squad. Because I know they wanted to bulk up more too. Like he needs to put on more weight.
Yeah, that's true.
And if he plays all game next week, I don't know.
They paid him the most, though.
True.
Of any of the UDFAs. Probably Meredith to try to snag him.
That's what's so interesting about this now. It's almost more of a chess play. Like, okay, who do we cut now so we can keep on the practice squad as opposed to just like disposing of someone?
Exactly.
Always fascinating.
And that's why I always tell people, like I caution them, temper your expectations on, this guy got cut early on, so he's clearly not going to make the practice squad. It's like, no, it's not. It's not the NCAA tournament bracket. It's not like the last 4 in, the first 4 out, the next 4 out. You know what I mean? Like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So, and this year I believe they did move the practice squads up to 16.
Yes.
So the Rams have 17 because Percher, which, by the way, why the hell is Percher not playing?
I was thinking
You
the same
can't
thing.
do worse than
Yeah.
what you saw Bobby Evans doing in pass pro at right guard. Put
Right?
Percher in. I'm serious. Like, just put him in. Because Devlin Hodges is probably going to get a lot of run in this third preseason game. Although, to be honest with you, I might just keep. If the question is, how sold are we that Perkins is worth keeping, on the roster? Then he has to play the next game fully.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
If you feel good that he's going to make the team,
Well, then that
should start then.
Maybe we'll see Hodges as one of the 5 cuts. Maybe they
Well,
say, you know what?
that brings up the tough one, because if he's one of the 5 cuts, then you go with Perkins the whole game. You make John Wolford your emergency quarterback. Yeah. I don't think they want to play him at all because of the surgery,
Yeah, that's true. And they definitely don't want Matt Stafford as their emergency quarterback. That's not happening.
Johnny Hecker.
Yeah, I guess. Hecker.
I mean, hey, we just went through an emergency punter situation. Which, by the way, shout out to Matt Gay. He was incredible.
Dude, he punted great.
I mean, the first punt, he got the kinks out, was it 34 yards. And then he booted a 50-yarder.
Yeah. Had a hell of a punt from like the 30 down to the other 30.
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I was really bummed because I think Bajorquez has made this a legit competition.
Mm-hmm.
And while everyone just wants to assume Hecker's won it, Hecker kind of keeps saying, this is a competition.
Yeah.
This is not like years past. And it feels different.
I agree.
I don't want him to get cut, but when you have that heavy price tag and they go out and they sign arguably the best punter last year in the league, it puts you in an awful position.
Yeah, it does. It does. I just don't want to see him end up in Dallas, which is he gets cut.
He absolutely
will be.
There you go. You talk about connecting the dots there.
Yeah.
Oh God, Dallas could have Ray Guy as their punter. They'd be cutting him in 2 seconds for Johnny Hecker. I mean, no doubt.
Exactly. I know. Got the Dallas Rams, the Detroit Rams. They're all over the place. So, well, hey man, this has been fun. This has been a blast. There's our recap of game 2, plus some previewing of hopefully game 3 against Denver next weekend, first away game and only away game in the preseason. And then we're finally closer to the opening week against Chicago. I asked you last time, but are you planning on getting out here for a game or two out to LA?
Oh man, with everything going on with my grandfather, it's just so much up in the air. Because especially now I don't have a job. So we're working on it.
Open availability though.
Yeah. At the same time, no funds, that whole thing. So
I feel that. I
mean, could I make it work? Potentially. I know I could fly out there. What I could do after that is a whole mystery. But I could fly out there because I could use my Southwest points. I do have enough to go there and back, but I don't know. It's just a matter of, who would come with me and just when we would make it happen. And it's like when you're starting a new job, you don't want to be like, hey, just so you know, I'm leaving. Like,
gone for a week. Peace.
Yeah. But what I was thinking, what could be good is if it's, as long as it's a remote job, potentially I could work out there, So.
Very true.
So
you could take a whole month and come out here then.
Yeah. I mean, originally, the plan in March, I was supposed to move out there.
That's right.
And it totally, evaporated.
Yeah.
It does. And now I don't know if I will, because I like it here, except for the cold. But I think the goal is, Ryan, is you get to the point where you have a really nice business.
Mm-hmm.
You work from home. Yep. You're in your base. You're near your family. And then you have the flexibility because you work for yourself, where I can take a vacation in LA. I can take a vacation in Florida. I can see my family in Kansas. That is the goal for me. So as long as I can get there, man, I'll be happy.
It's a good goal. Well, we'll be praying and support any way we can. And, obviously keep up the great work. Keep the content coming. We'll do a bunch of collabs like this, I'm sure, throughout the season. So thank you, my man. I'm sure everyone in here probably knows where you are, but let everyone know where to find you and all the downtown round stuff at.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. You can follow me at JK Bogan. It's just JK Bogan now. And that's on Twitter. You can find me on, Instagram. I'm at JK Bogan. On Facebook, I'm just Jake Ellenbogen, I believe. And then YouTube is Jake Ellenbogen, all uppercase letters, although you can look up Jake Rams, and now I come up with that. So that's kind of cool.
Kind of cool.
Yeah, Jake Rams.
Cool.
And then Downtown Rams is I'm now writing again for Downtown Rams
Nice.
after taking a really long, nearly retirement there. I just wrote an article on the site, 10 takeaways from the game last night. So if you're interested in that, check it out, downtownrams.com. Also, you can follow Downtown Rams on Instagram, and there's a Downtown Rams YouTube. Shout out to my co-host, Alexis Kraft. We just put out a Downtown Rams podcast on the game last night. Shout out to Blaine Grisak, who does run downtownrams.com in its entirety, editorial. And yeah, that's all I got.
There you go. A lot of great stuff. So make sure to give all that a follow. Check it out. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks so much. And, we made it through without my daughter being too much of a distraction. I'm kind of impressed that over an hour and we didn't hear her too much. So that's good.
Yeah, it's like
you were melodic voices, I guess.
Yeah, it's just like, you'll look one day on the, on Twitter or whatever, and all of a sudden you're going viral because your daughter's doing something back you didn't even notice.
I know. I'm waiting for that. That I would take that for sure. Like that
go.
One video of that like CNN correspondent when the kid comes in the room and the mom like pulls it out. Waiting for that. But anyway, bro, appreciate you. Have a great week. Thank you everyone for tuning in to the LA Football Podcast live here. Brought to you by Brewery X. We'll get you one of these, Jake, if you come out. Definitely.
Hell yeah, I'm down.
Couple beers for sure. But everyone enjoy the week tonight. Chargers play here in a couple hours for those just LA football fans as the Chargers take on the Niners at SoFi. But Jake, take care. We'll talk here soon, okay?
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.